Hey, welcome everybody to the May 2025 Google user group meeting for GEG Ohio, the Google Educator Group of Ohio. So happy to have you here, whether you've joined us live or if you're watching the recording. I just appreciate you taking the time to join us. For those that have joined us live, please do let us know where you're from. I see a bunch of people have been starting to chat in the chat, so please feel free to drop in the chat where you have come from. It's always great to see that. So hi, Jennifer from Georgia. Great to see you there. While you guys are doing your introductions, we will do the same. So hi, my name's Eric. I am an ed tech coach working for the Stark County Educational Service Center up here in Northeast Ohio. And I'm joined today by two of my amazing co-hosts. John, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your intro?
Yeah, good afternoon or whatever time of day it is when you're watching this. I'm John Mansell-Pladle, and I work for the Northern Bucks Education Council, and we service districts in the northwest corner of Ohio, and I am the supervisor of the professional learning group. So we do PD for lots of districts. Happy to be with you this afternoon, Eric.
Excellent. And Sarah, who has been with us for many years, but not always able to attend, is with us today. Sarah, introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah Kiefer, and I'm coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio. I am officially on summer break. Yes.
Yay.
And I will be headed into an old/new role this coming school year, 25-26. I'm headed back. I'm super pumped to go back to Ross Local Schools and be a technology integration specialist.
Fantastic. Well, so excited for all the new things to come for you, and very excited that you could join us here today. It's always great to have you. So all throughout this session, we'll be sharing the latest and greatest with Google for Education. These are typically monthly meetings where we look at what is new in Google from the last month and how it relates to schools. Now, we do have a document. I imagine if you're watching live, you're already in it, but if you're catching this in the future, the recording, I will put the link to the agenda down in the description. But for those that are live here today, I'm just going to go ahead and copy that right now and drop it directly into our chat. At the same time, you do see a link at the bottom, the bit.ly/GEG Ohio link. That will take you to the GEG Ohio website, and you can find the agenda there as well. So if we were to pop on over to GEG Ohio's website, there is a link for monthly meetings. If you scroll on down, that's where you'll find them. So here's today's meeting, and there's the agenda link for that. Awesome. Good stuff. So as far as this document goes, a couple of key things about it. It is editable if you're a member of the GEG Ohio group. If not, you can leave comments on the document. So either way, you can absolutely contribute. There's a couple of key places I would probably recommend you do that. One of them is the upcoming events tab. We'll talk about that more in a moment. If you know of a conference or something that should be on this list that isn't, or a PD opportunity, please put that in there. Another one would be under Show and Tell. There's a section in Show and Tell called Community Show and Tell. I can see Matt Mays has already added some things there, but you can go ahead and add anything special you would like to share, cool new tools you've come across, or a great resource, or really anything that you would like to share with the community. And then a third place that probably would be a good option would be the Q&A section. So if you got a question, we've got one already in there. Awesome. Drop that into the Q&A. If you've got an answer to those questions, then go ahead and also do that. Put in answers to those as we go through. Excellent. Fantastic. Well, with that said, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and turn off our banner, since you guys have probably had enough time to see that. And I'm also going to hide us. We're going to disappear so you guys can see the screen a little bit better there, but we're still all here in the background. And we're going to start running down through some of our first couple of tabs before we get into the meat of this session. So we've already covered welcome and introductions. So again, fantastic. So great to have Sarah and John with us today, but I want to give a shout out to Stephanie and Denny, who are also help lead our group as well. All right. Well, important links. I did mention about the GEG Ohio website, but there's another link that's probably a little more important to you at the moment, and that is our sign-in form. So on the important links tab, you'll see a link to a Google form where you can sign in to show that you've attended this meeting. And then later on, I will send you a PDF certificate of attendance. If you're watching this live, fantastic. If you're watching the recording, that's okay too. As long as you watch through this, go ahead and click on that link and fill that out, and you will likewise get a certificate of attendance for being a part of the meeting. Next up, group updates. I did mention just a few moments ago that if you're a member of the GEG Ohio group, then you can actually edit the document. If you're not a member, then you can comment on the document. So what is that all about? What is this group? Well, we have a Google group for GEG Ohio that anybody can join. And I guess we might as well mention this real quick as well. Yes, this is an Ohio-based group, but we welcome everybody. As long as you have an interest in Google for Schools, you are welcome here, even if you're outside of the Ohio area. But this group is a great way to stay in touch in between the meetings. So when you get a moment, if you haven't joined the group, I would encourage you to follow the directions that are here so that you can pop on over and join that group. We have over 1,700 members in that group. And you can drop an email to the group to ask a question, share a resource, just stay connected with others. And that's going to be really useful, especially since summer's coming up here. So typically we're a monthly meeting. Well, we won't be during the summer. We typically take off June and July for sure. Usually we try to have another meeting in August, at the tail end of August, to kick things back off, but definitely back in full swing by September. So we will have at least 2 months off. And this is a way, again, to stay in touch with everybody from the group in the meantime. All right, next up, we do have some upcoming events. So a lot of these are maybe a little more Ohio specific. Some of them not, but many of them are. So we definitely want to give a quick shout out to some of these things that are coming up. For example, the Create Conference in the Toledo area on June 5th. In my neck of the woods, the High Impact Conference for Educators. This is done by the Stark County Educational Service Center where I work. It's 2 days, June 10th and 11th, and we do have all of the sessions posted now on the website. If you're anywhere near Northeast Ohio, I encourage you to come on over for one or both of those days. It is a free conference. Another one that's coming up in mid-June is one that I'm doing for OAESA. Now, that particular organization is geared more toward elementary. So that is the Ohio Association of Elementary School Administrators. But really, it's mostly focused on PK8. So it goes all the way up through 8th grade. So you probably could include some middle school in there as well. But this is their annual conference, and I'll be doing a keynote and a whole bunch of sessions at that. So I did include that. And of course, ISTE coming up at the end of June, start of July. I've got quite a number of sessions that I'll be presenting there. I do need to update my ISTE session list there. I've added a few more since, so I will work on that. But more importantly, I just want to point out, don't forget, if you are attending, please take advantage of our sharing document. This is a document that is an editable document where you can go in and add yourself to the list of who's attending. You can promote the sessions that you're doing, but probably most importantly is all the mixers. This is where you can find out what's going on. And so you can then be able to sign up for all of these amazing different mixers and events and things that are going on. And that way, every night you've got something to do. Now, speaking of such events and mixers, I do have our board game meetup that we're doing again, the 3rd year that we have done that. That is also linked in right here. This is going to be Sunday night to kick off things. And basically, it's a free event where you can come and go anytime you want from 6 p.m. to 11. We're going to have loads and loads and loads of board games there, board games, card games, all kinds of nice chill stuff. We've had in the last few years hundreds of people attend. So it's a fantastic way to be able to kick off ISTE in a nice chill environment where you can actually talk to people, not have to scream and shout over background music, which is totally fine too. But at the start of ISTE, this is a really nice way to connect with people. So definitely sign up for that if you're going to be attending ISTE. Other than that, let's see, last couple of things. The Think Forum, I'll be doing this. This is also up in the Toledo area. This is going to be a day-long event where they've got just loads and loads and loads and loads of AI-related sessions. I'll be doing 2 breakout sessions and a closing keynote for that. And then lastly, the GTech Summit, August 5th. So that'll get us through the summer. That's a great way to wrap up summer and kick off the new school year. Port Clinton Schools putting that on. Sarah or John, did I miss anything there that we should be aware of about upcoming events? And if not, that's okay. All right. Looks like we might have caught it all. I did see Jennifer Newton asked if we're going to be having Mahjong at the game night. I would love, yeah, that'd be fantastic. I don't own a Mahjong set, but that's the point is we encourage people to bring their own stuff. So when you do sign up for the board game meetup, you'll get a confirmation email that includes this link right here to add your own games. This will take you to a document where you'll see all the games that we currently have on tap. There's going to be a whole lot more. These are just, the ones I'm bringing and a few other people, but this will continue to get filled out. But yeah, if you've got Mahjong, bring Mahjong. That would be fantastic. We'll have lots more games between now and the actual event.
Eric, I will mention at the Create conference, the team members from the Northern Buckeye Professional Learning Group are going to be doing the keynote, which will actually be a digital escape room activity.
Love it.
Participants. So we're looking forward to showcasing some of those things for people that come to the Create conference.
That's fantastic. Well, very good. Well, we're going to move on to our What's New in Google section, which is the typical bulk of these meetings. But please feel free to go back through and add things to the events. If you're aware of something that we missed, drop that in there. That'd be great. But for now, and keep on throwing things into show and tell and Q&A. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about what's new. So here's the idea. Every month, we do our best to keep an eye on all the new things that Google announces, releases, gives a preview of, whatever it might be. And we drop them in this document. Now, we're not going to go through everything in here. There's way too much content, so we do pick and choose. Now, there are 2 tabs here. The one is by date. If you want to just see chronologically as things got released, that is the by date tab. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use the by topic tab. I feel it's a little bit less jumpy around, as if we can kind of stick to topic by topic. Here's the big deal, though. This last month, being the month of May, is when Google holds their annual I/O conference. So that's the big news. So what you're going to notice is this first couple of, this page or so here, there's not a lot that I've highlighted because these are some smaller announcements, which I'm sure they're important, but typically they hold most of their big announcements for I/O. And so that's really what we're going to camp out on. I'm going to hit a couple. I'm going to hit a few. There's a few little odds and ends here that we will touch on very quickly. But for the most part, folks, this is what we're going to camp out on. So what I've done with I/O is I've pulled together all of the things that they released, and I'm going to try to touch on as many of those quickly as I can when we get to that. But that's really going to be the bulk of our time, is seeing that. With that said, let me know if there's something I skip over that you're interested in. Drop it in the chat. And then, of course, Sarah and John, please, 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 please interrupt me at any point to add your own comments or questions or additional resources to any of this. All right, so let's get on into this. Again, I'm going to skip over these, but the links are here if you want to check them out. The first thing I was going to mention was a cool update to Google Vids. Now, Google Vids, don't forget, this is not available to everyone. That's why I end up putting these little, icons next to things. So just to be able to use Vids in general, just to be able to use Vids, you do have to have the Education Plus tier to be able to get to Vids. But this particular update is even more exclusive. It's not just that, it's that it requires the AI upgrade on top of that. So again, anybody with the Plus tier, that gives you access to Vids, but the Gemini add-on is actually required for this. So what is this update? Well, the update is that now when you're using Google Vids, if you're looking for that perfect video clip and you just can't find it, you went through the stock image or the stock videos, you've gone through what you had, and you just can't find the video clip you need, guess what? You can now use AI to generate that. VO2, which we will see more of later, VO is Google's text to video generation tool. So I did try this out earlier. So I'll pull over the account. This is a different account that I actually have that capability on. I don't have that on the other account here, but on this account, I do have the AI upgrade. And you'll see inside of Google Vids, let's say I've got this vid I'm working on all about food webs. Let's say I just wasn't thrilled with the videos I had. I now have this option over here on the side to click generate video and type in a description of what I wanted, a slow motion journey through a vibrant backyard vegetable garden, and then it will generate the clip. Now they are 8-second clips. Here, we'll make it a little bigger so you can see the clip. There it is. They are 8-second long clips. That's as long as VO does, and you can make multiple clips, but each clip is only 8 seconds. And there is a limit on how many you can do per day. It is 20 videos per day that you can generate with this particular account. So you do want to be a little thoughtful about, making sure you've got a decent prompt that you're putting in. But my gosh, I mean, it's gorgeous. That's a fantastic video of a vegetable garden to go with the producers section of the food web here. Now I already went ahead and inserted it, so it's dropped in up there. So anyway, that's nice that if you do have Plus for Vids, and if you have the Gemini add-on, you now have that additional feature to be able to generate those videos anytime you need in there. Nice.
And Eric, I'll just add
yes.
in that if you don't have the Gemini add-on, then when you look in Vids, you just won't see the buttons there, correct?
Well, you're just not going to see that button. What
Right.
you're going to see, so that's the generate video button. You're going to have all of these other buttons over here. So, like their stock and web button. If I click on stock and web, this gives me access to tons of stock videos, stock images, stock music, stickers, sound effects, GIF, Google images. So, oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I could, if I wanted to just say, okay, I want a picture of an apple or something like that. I could say, let's look for, videos about, whoops, I got to type in the word apple. Sorry about that. There we go. And now I'm getting all these. So I could, maybe one of these would be perfect, and I could grab any one of these, and they're all completely free to use and drop in. Those are stock videos. So yeah, it's really more a matter of if you don't have, the video that is exactly what you're looking for, and you've got the AI upgrade. Yep, you've got a little bit more flexibility now. Having said that, I mean, they have a very robust collection of videos there. Thanks for the clarification on that, John. All right. Well, next up, a quick update on Google Classroom. So this is not a whole new thing, but just an update to an existing feature, and that is the ability to add YouTube assignments in Google Classroom. We've had that for a while now. That's not like a brand new feature, but what they've done is they've increased the amount of YouTube videos that now have AI suggested questions available. Okay, let me clarify this for you. Okay, so first of all, let me find my Classroom tab. I'll go ahead and bring that on over. So let's say I've got Google Classroom here, and I'm creating an assignment, and I want to add a YouTube video to the assignment. When I go to add the YouTube video, and let's say I'm just going to search. I'll just do food webs since we were just talking about food webs. That's perfectly fine. When I search for food webs, I get all of these videos on food webs. Well, look at what a lot of them say. 5 suggested questions, 6 suggested questions, 9 suggested questions. This is basically Google Gemini has already pre-processed all of these videos and has come up with suggested questions that you can add to the videos. So when a student is watching the video, they're not just watching the video, it's going to pause the video, and very similar to other services like Edpuzzle, it is going to insert a question. The student has to answer the question, and then they move on. Well, in the past, it was a much smaller group of videos that had these, and some of them still don't. If you look here, I'm seeing some that do not have suggested questions. So there are some that, for whatever reason, they didn't make the cut. But the point is, the amount that have suggested questions much, much, much more than it used to be. So now if I go in and I select one of these videos and I say I want to add, questions to this video, I'll see that the AI has already put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. If I don't like them, that's fine. I can edit things, but it's already created 5 questions to go into this video, so that if I were to say, let's attach this, to my assignment now, when I attach this and the students go to watch it, they won't just be watching the video, they'll actually be answering the questions as they go. So that is a new update to just basically say, hey, we're increasing the amount of AI suggested questions. Now, keep in mind, you can just add your own questions. You don't have to use the AI suggested ones, or you could use AI on your own. You could take the transcript of the video, run it through Gemini and say, hey, make me some questions here. But it's just nice to know that the ones that are already being provided, that has increased quite a bit from before. Now, don't forget, just to be able to add questions to the YouTube videos, you do have to have Teaching and Learning or Plus. So that there is a requirement on being able to do that. But the AI generated questions, if you can access the feature, you get those. You do not need the Gemini add-on to be able to do that. But that's nice. This next one, some new AI and accessibility updates. I'm only going to mention one thing out of this entire article here. It's got a lot of great stuff on accessibility. Please check it out. All these great features that they're updating. That's great. The one I wanted to do, it's almost like they almost skip right over it. It's such a small little spot here. But it's Project Euphonia. And so I just wanted to mention real quick that this is something that back in 2019, my gosh, this has been 6 years ago that they first launched this. I've been sharing about Project Euphonia probably since then. I think I've been talking about it. This is something that I've been really anxious for people to be able to get their hands on. What it is Project Euphonia is a division of Google where they've been working on AI that can recognize speech that is non-traditional. So a lot of the times if I'm using, Doc's voice typing, that's going to work for the vast majority of folks. But what if somebody has some sort of a speech challenge that causes them to speak in a way that is not traditional? Those tools tend to fail. And a lot of times I'll be doing trainings. I'll be doing an AI, or excuse me, like a accessibility training. So I'll be doing like my Google tools to support all learners training, for example. And I'll talk about, hey, you can use speech to text, blah, blah, blah. And I'll have a teacher say, yeah, but I've got a student who has, this XYZ situation where their speech is not very clear. It's not very traditional. There's something about it that's different. What's going to happen? And I've always had to say, yeah, that's probably not going to work real well with, Doc's voice typing. Well, that's where Project Euphonia comes in. Basically, what you do is you train the AI on the user specifically. And so the AI builds a model for that specific speaker. And it learns that's how that person says those words. And so with that custom model, anybody can then train it on their voice and then use it. Well, the whole point of me bringing all this up is they are finally starting to roll this out to developers. So I guess they've reached a spot where they feel it has progressed enough that it is a reliable tool. And so now they're saying it is globally available for developers to use. So hopefully that means we're going to start seeing this working its way into a lot of other tools soon. So good news on the accessibility front there. So excited about that. All right. Couple more things before we get to the big I/O stuff. NotebookLM definitely got a few quick updates here over the last month. So one of them is just that NotebookLM now allows audio overviews to be done in over 50 languages. So if I were to grab my notebook here, I fed all the Google I/O press releases into a notebook, and I was using it to ask it questions about it, which was very helpful. But now if I go to generate an audio overview, prior to clicking the generate button, I can go up to my settings in the very top and I can choose output language. When I do that, whatever language I pick here, that's going to affect everything. All the text that gets outputted, as well as all the audio that gets outputted. So I can switch my default language to another language. And now if I hit generate for an audio overview, it's going to be in that other language. So that's people have been asked ever since NotebookLM came out. That was one of the first questions people said is, can you get it to speak Spanish or whatever? So the answer is yes, yes, yes. Now you can. Other quick things, they have updated the engine behind NotebookLM. It's now using Gemini 2.5 Flash, so you should expect to get much more powerful, accurate results out of it. And there's now a NotebookLM mobile app out. So that's nice. You can much easier access it without having to try to pull it up on your phone in the desktop layout. It's a much more mobile-friendly format. So a couple of quick notebook updates. There's going to be some more to come, but those are the ones that were outside of Google I/O. And then I think this is the last bit before we hit Google I/O, a few Gemini things that weren't technically part of I/O. So yeah, they ended up getting kind of separated out here. One was at the very tail end of April, Google launched a new experiment called Little Language Lessons. And there's a blog post about it, but I'll just pop on over to the actual site itself. You can just sign in with your Google account. Give me a moment to get signed in there. All right. And basically what this is an AI-powered website to help you practice a language you're learning. And they've got 3 different categories here: Tiny Lesson, SlangHang, and WordCam. Tiny Lesson is the most traditional of these. Basically, you go in and you say, okay, what's the language I'm learning? So I could say, okay, I'm learning, Spanish. And what's the topic? What's the thing I want to learn about? So I could come here and say something like, ordering coffee or something like that. And then I could hit generate. And what it's going to do is it's going to put together a quick little lesson for me on how would you order coffee in Spanish. And so what it's doing is it's giving me key vocabulary. And of course, I can click on the play button.
El café.
And it should, hopefully, I shared the audio. Hopefully that's coming through. And so you can hear these different words. You can see more phrases, more terms if you want to see more. They also do entire phrases. So here we go.
¿Me puede traer un café, por favor?
And again, more phrases if I want more. And then just tips, like some key things to be aware of, maybe cultural tips, things that are specific to how you order coffee in the Spanish language. And so you can pick up those tips as well. And of course, they can generate additional tips as well. Should you use por favor or gracias, and explaining the difference between those. So you can generate a lesson on any topic that you want. There's also SlangHang, which focuses more on idioms and things like that. And then WordCam works better on your phone. Basically, you point your camera at anything and it labels all the things in there and tells you what they are in the language you've chosen. So great if you're learning a world language. Also fantastic for English language learners because you can pick English as the language here. So anyway, little language lessons. Good stuff. What else? How about this? Another quick Gemini update. We've been able to add images to Gemini for a long time. You could upload images and say, hey, what's this a picture of? Whatever. Well, now you can upload images to Gemini and ask it to edit the image, actually change the image itself. This is something that ChatGPT has done recently. Now Gemini has this ability as well. It is slow rolling out, so you might not have this yet. They show an example of uploading a dog and then saying put a hat on the dog, then put the dog at the beach. And so the idea is it preserves the original image and it just does editing to it. So this is for people who have used Photoshop to do these kind of things. This is what we're talking about. AI potentially replacing the need for some of that to be able to say, okay, I'm going to upload my image. Do not, alter the image other than put a hat on the dog. Now, I tried this out in an account that does have this rolled out. So I just took a picture of myself and said, put a cowboy hat on me. And there we go. And so I took my image and it put a cowboy hat on me. So there you go. Simple as that. So anyway, be aware that is in the process of rolling out. And then I think we're down to our last things before the Google I/O deep dive here. Gemini used to have what was called extensions. Now they call them apps rather than extensions. The big point of this is that they are now available in general for anybody who is using Gemini. So what I mean by that is if I head into Gemini and I go down to my settings, there's now an apps tab there. If I click on the apps tab, this is where I can turn on or off the ability for Gemini to interact with my other Google tools. So basically by turning this on, I can ask Gemini questions about my Gmail, about my calendar, about files in my Google Drive, about tasks that I have, and it can actually read my email. It can look at my calendar. It can open up my documents and it can process those. So you have to opt in. You got to turn that on. And it is, again, down under your settings, but it used to be called extensions. Now they're calling it apps. But again, it was very slow rolling out. This is just saying, heads up, this is not a new thing, but it is now generally available to everybody. And then the last thing, honestly, it's one of the simplest updates, but my gosh, I cannot believe it took this long for us to get this update. The ability to search inside of the Gemini app. And this I found on 9 to 5 Google. I didn't even find this on one of the Google blogs. So I don't know why they didn't make a bigger deal out of it. But the idea, again, being that if I go into Gemini, and I go over to my menu here on the left-hand side. In the past, if I were to come down here, I could scroll through all of my previous chats to try to find a chat that I've had, and I could reopen a chat that I wanted to start up again. But that's kind of clunky. If you use a tool a lot, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chats. Now you can pin things. You can come up here and say, oh, I want to pin this particular one so I can find it easy. That's great, but you can only do, you don't want to pin so many things or else that's not going to be very helpful. So guess what? There's now a search button. So basically, yeah, I can now click on search and I can type in something like, water cycle. And now it's going to find all of my queries related to the water cycle. Why we didn't have that earlier, I don't know. Google, a search company. Why did they not have search built into Gemini? Well, now they do. So I really appreciate that. That makes it so much easier to be able to find stuff. All right. Well, let's pause there. We're gonna move into Google I/O here in a second. But Sarah, John, thoughts, questions, comments, anything on these odds and ends before we dive into all that was Google I/O?
Things are very quiet in the chat, Eric. So I think everyone's just taking in your summary, and we're looking forward to hearing about I/O.
Totally fine. And I totally understand also, this is a probably not the time of year that a lot of people are focusing so much with people wrapping up the school year. So it's odd that, this is when Google chooses to do I/O at a time when a lot of educators are saying, you know what? I'm just going to disappear for a couple of months. Google's like, oh, hey, guess what? Let's drop a dozen amazing things. So if you're watching this 2 months from now, when you've realized, okay, time to go back to school, then that's great. No worries at all. This is going to get you caught up to speed on all the new things. Okay. So let's talk about I/O real quick. First of all, if you missed it, don't worry, it's all here, of course. So under the overview section, here's the full keynote. It's like a 2-hour keynote. Here's a 10-minute version of it. Here is a collection of all the I/O blog posts that were done. Here's a blog post on 100 things they announced. Here's a podcast recap that Google did. So feel free to check any of that out. What I've done is I've taken all of the core blog posts that they put out, all their announcements, and underneath several of them, I put a little indented bullet. Basically, what I did was I read the article and said, here's the gist. I read this, here's the gist. For each one of these, this is what I think is probably the most important thing from them. So I am going to talk about several of these. I can't show you a lot of this stuff because it just isn't out yet. We can look at the blog post, but a lot of these things, they're not released. It's not like we can do these things yet. A few of them, but all right. So let's go ahead and hit what, in my opinion, what I think are some of the most important things. So the very first thing is a whole new model, Gemini 2.5. So there's a nice blog post on here that says, hey, 2.5 is now officially out. Now, you may say, well, Eric, you mentioned 2.5 earlier. Yeah. They've been piloting it for a while. So when I would go to Gemini in the past, if I would head over to Gemini, here, let me zoom in so you can actually see this better. If I were to go up to the little drop down, they used to have 2.0 as the default model. Then they'd have 2.5. It would say like experimental or something like that next to it. It starts out experimental, then it moves to preview, then it moves to like done. And so basically the point is 2.0 is gone, and now 2.5 is the default model. It is an incredibly powerful model. So here's the thing. I know ChatGPT got the early start out of the gate when it came to chatbots. And so ChatGPT understandably has, a massive name recognition, and people are very comfortable and familiar with it. And people that when Google first then started putting out a chatbot, it used to be Bard, and of course changed to Gemini. If people just remember Bard, they don't have a good view of what Google's AI can do, because Bard was their early attempt at that. And so was Gemini 1, 1.5, 2. Well, now we're up to Gemini 2.5, and it is a monster. It is a really, really good model, to the point that I don't know, I could probably find it. That's okay. I'd have to search for it. But there's a website out there that does large language model rankings, and that's got like 3 million, votes from users all over the world. And Gemini 2.5 is right at the top. So Gemini 2.5 Pro is currently the #1 ranked model, and Flash is the #2 ranked model, above ChatGPT, above Anthropic, above all of them. Now, don't get me wrong. I love ChatGPT. I love Claude from Anthropic. I think they're all fantastic. The point I want to say is, if you've been holding back on Gemini thinking, oh, I tried that Bard thing once, please come back, try it again. At the moment, these 2.5 models are pretty much universally hailed as the best AI models at the moment. Now, give it another month. I guarantee you there's going to be something else out there, because that's just the way it works. But the point is, they're really, really, really good. Google's done a fantastic job with those. So that's the big announcement, is 2.5 is no longer in preview. It is here, and it's powering everything that Google is doing. So that's cool. That's good. All right. A little more specifics, though. How about Canvas? Now, if you don't remember what Canvas is, if that's something that doesn't ring a bell for you, Canvas is a feature that got added into Gemini in the last couple of months. I can't remember exactly when, but basically the idea is, when you go to Gemini now and you ask a question, you have the option to click this little Canvas button. And if you do click the Canvas button, what does it do? Well, basically, when you ask a question, it generates a new window over on the right-hand side where all of the content gets created. Then on the left, the chat continues. Now, that's not new. Okay, Canvas, we've had that for a while. That's not the announcement. The announcement is you can now, and both of these go together. So both, I lumped these both together. You can now, from Canvas, you can create web pages, infographics, audio overviews, and quizzes. Now, I went ahead and created one ahead of time just because it takes a little while. So let me grab it and drag it over for you guys. So here's the one I created ahead of time. Basically, what I did was I said, generate a study guide based on the uploaded PDF. And I had a PDF about the Boston Tea Party. And when I did that, I clicked the Canvas button. And basically, this is what it generated. It took that PDF and it built a study guide. So you notice on the left-hand side is the chat, on the right is Canvas. So basically, it generated this document in the Canvas window here, where it built a study guide for me. Now, that's awesome. That's great. And this is an editable window. Everything in Canvas, you're allowed to type in here. You can make changes. You can edit this. You can also come over here and change the length. You can change the tone, all kinds of stuff. So that's great. All of that is old. None of that's new. Here's the new spot. you can hit create now. And anything that you generate inside of Canvas, you can now make a web page from it. You can make an infographic. You can make a quiz. You can make an audio overview, or you can describe the thing you want made, and it will make it. Now, again, I went ahead and did this ahead of time. So let's check some of these out. I asked it to make a quiz. So here's the quiz. I've already started taking it, but you can see I'm on question 3 out of 10. Hit next. Here's question 4 out of 10. So it'll give me a question and some possible answers. And then when I click an answer, if I get it wrong, it explains why that was wrong, shows me the right answer, and explains that. So this is a great way just to build a self-checking quiz. So I did that. Then, whoops, sorry, get back into that. Didn't mean to close out of that, sorry. And then what else did I ask it to do? So after that, I asked it to make an infographic. So I chose the create infographic option, and this is what it created here. And it's really nice. So here's the infographic. It's got, like a timeline. It's got some nice graphs here. It's got key players. It's got another graph here. It's got some cause and effect stuff going on. Very nice. It's a very nice infographic. And of course, anything you create here, you can do with however you want. Then the next thing I asked it to do was to generate the audio overview. And this is just like NotebookLM, but if I click play here,
Welcome to the deep dive. Ever picture the Boston Tea Party?
And so very much like NotebookLM, you can now obviously then also build, have it generate the audio overview and on and on and on and on. So that is really nice that we now have those features just built right into Canvas, quick web pages, infographics, audio overviews, quizzes. Very nice. I like it.
Eric, we had a question from Alex in the chat. How is it different from NotebookLM?
Sure thing. So the biggest difference would be the limit on how many files can be processed at once. So what you're doing here in Canvas is not meant to be as heavy of lifting as NotebookLM. In NotebookLM, you can upload 50 files, 50 files into your notebook. With Gemini, this interface, you can only add 10 files at a time. So that's probably the biggest difference is you're not, if you've got more than 10 files, you better take this over to NotebookLM because that's where you're going to be able to give it way more. Like when I created my Google I/O notebook, I have, I think, 23 sources. So, I wouldn't have been able to put all of those in straight to Gemini, but I can do that here inside of NotebookLM. And of course, NotebookLM can create all kinds of things, study guides, briefing documents, timelines, FAQs, but it doesn't create an interactive quiz. It doesn't create a pretty infographic. So, this is more for, I want to upload a ton of content and I want to generate, in general, text or audio. Whereas with this, I'm uploading up to 10 things, or maybe not even uploading things. I'm just asking it a question. You don't have to upload anything. And then I'm creating things that are a little bit more interactive, quizzes and infographics and websites and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Alex, for the question. Appreciate that. And John, thanks for catching that. All right. So that's a little bit of update on Canvas. Another update, deep research. So remember, when you go to Gemini, instead of hitting Canvas, instead you can also click deep research here. So with deep research, this is the one where you put in a question and you click deep research. And again, this is not new. We've had deep research for a long time, but deep research is where it then goes away for like 10, 15 minutes and comes back with a incredibly detailed response. So for example, here's one I did where I asked it to answer the question, what are the impacts of microplastics on marine ecosystems? And it came up with a plan. And then it, went away for like half an hour. And then it came back with basically like a 40-page long, incredibly deep overview of that question with, hundreds of sources that it has quoted in there as well. So again, that's not new. That's not the new part. The new part is that when you now use deep research, you can upload your own PDFs and images to have deep research pull from in addition to the research it's going to do. So basically you can seed it. You can say, here are some, I go out on, absolutely go out on the internet, read 200 articles, but I definitely need you to read this PDF. I need you to look at this image. So you can now upload files at the very first step there. And you can then continue to edit it in Canvas. And if you didn't notice there, that's basically what this is in. There's the create button. From deep research, I can now make quizzes and infographics and things as well. So that's awesome. What's up next? All right. And again, you guys holler at me, stop me at any point. Next up, learn in newer, deeper ways with Gemini. So here's a couple of updates on NotebookLM, Sparkify, and Project Astra. I'm going to pop open the article and mention there's more in it than that, but I'm going to mention a couple key things. So one of the key things it mentions is that NotebookLM, which we've already seen a couple of times, is getting some more updates. They mentioned some of the ones they've already done. Well, the new updates is length. How long should the audio overview be? Now, you guys have probably dealt with this before, that when you've gone in to create an audio overview, it would generate something typically 15 to 20 minutes in length, which might be longer than you wanted. Well, now if I hit customize, I've got shorter, default, and longer. So I can make shorter, probably more like 5 minutes. Longer is probably gonna be like a half an hour, and default is probably where it typically falls, around 15 minutes there. So that's nice. We now have a length option there that we can choose from. And then something new that's coming, I can't show you this because it's not here yet, is guess what? Instead of just making audio overviews, it's going to soon be able to make video overviews. That's awesome. So basically it's basically Google Vids. That's what it looks like to me. Now I'm hesitant to play this video only because since I'm going to put this on YouTube, I don't want this to get a strike on YouTube if I'm playing somebody else's YouTube video. So I typically don't play YouTube videos during those, but you guys can click the link and you guys can play it yourself and you can get your own take on it. But it looked a lot like the output of something like Google Vids. So basically, I guess the way to say it is, soon we're going to be able to say, I don't want to just make an audio overview. I want to make a video overview. And it's going to take all this information and create a Google Vids style informational video all about the content as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Don't know when that's coming out, but hopefully soon. Other things, what else did I want to mention here? Sparkify. So this one, you can sign up for the wait list. I signed up, but I haven't got notified yet. But what is it? So basically what this is a tool where you can create really, really short explainer videos. So this is using VO, Google's video generation tool, but it's been optimized for short educational explainer videos. So whether it's, the origin of matcha, or, touring the Golden Gate Bridge, or, should you become a fashion designer, or the chemistry of bread making, or whatever, you can play any of these and see the examples of the kind of things that get created. So they're very educational, short, accessible, hitting the key points. So this could be interesting. I've already thought about using tools like VO to make educational videos. This would just make that even easier by having it already kind of adjusted to know this is an educational video, keep it short, keep it informational, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be a cool one to keep an eye on. I'm really excited to eventually get, hopefully, access to that soon. And then the last one from this article I was going to mention was Project Astra, which is not new. We've had that for a long time. Project Astra is the one where basically you point your phone at something and Google Gemini uses its video capabilities to look at what you're showing it, and then it can process the live feed. Well, they are prototyping a conversational tutor that can help with homework. So you could use your phone, point it at whatever you're learning, and then it could process that and pop up a tutor to help walk you through the process of understanding, and again, I would encourage you to check out this. I don't know if I can make this one a little bit bigger. This one I probably can show because I don't believe this is a YouTube video. We'll just make it a little bigger here. There we go. You can see that not only is Gemini talking, but it's actually highlighting things. It's, I've circled this for you to show you where your mistake is. That's pretty slick. That's great job. Just one small mistake. And so, Gemini is showing exactly where they went wrong there. So anyway, so those are a couple of things there. NotebookLM, length and video overviews, Sparkify, educational animated videos, and Astra, the conversational tutor. So those are a couple of cool updates. I know I'm skipping some things, but those were the ones that I thought really caught my eye. Next up, AI in search. Again, not new. This is something we've had for a while. So AI mode has been in Google Labs for months now. And if you haven't tried it out, I would absolutely encourage you to try it out. But basically what this blog post is showing is all of the new things that are coming to AI mode. Well, let's begin by just showing you AI mode. So here, again, you have to sign up for this in Labs. You got to turn this on in Google Labs. So if I were to go and run a search, causes of the Boston Tea Party, this is the normal, result from a regular search. I have, though, a button called AI mode. That's because, again, I went into Google Labs and I turned this on. Well, if I click AI mode, what it's going to do is take that same search and it's going to let AI assist in coming up with a response. So it's basically Gemini mixed with Google search. So I'm getting a really nice Gemini response here, but it's giving me links that back up this information. And over here are all the sites that it used. So basically it's saying, this is the information I used to generate this overview for you. And you can go out to all those websites and you can ask follow-up questions. Okay. So again, that is not new. We have actually had that for a little while. It's just, again, you have to go into Search Labs to turn that on. Well, this blog post is talking about all kinds of new features coming to that. I can't demonstrate any of these because they're coming, but we don't have them yet. But some of the things in here is what they're calling deep search, that depending on the question you ask, after you ask the question, you might get a button at the bottom that says deep search. Basically, it's deep research, that you would have normally. You can click on that and it will do a much more here. Let's see if I can make this bigger so you guys can see it better. So if you click the deep search option, again, we don't have this yet, but when we do get it, it makes a far more detailed response than the quick one that you got earlier. So basically, yeah, it's like the deep research version of AI mode in Google search. So that's nice. Other things, let's see, what else might I want to mention? The agentic capabilities. The idea behind this is letting the search go do things for you, giving it a task like find 2 affordable tickets for this Saturday's Reds game or whatever, and letting it just go and do its thing. And then, 15 minutes later, it comes back, or I don't know how long, maybe 5 minutes, and says, okay, I searched all these sites. Here's all the stuff I found. So basically using search as an agent to go out and do things for you. And then they also mentioned custom charts and graphs. So being able to ask it not only to search for you, but to generate custom charts and graphs based on that. So just be aware, this AI mode thing, it's slick already, and they're just adding a lot more to it for search. All right. What else could we? Oh, now we're getting into the really fancy stuff. The next 2 blog posts talk about their new generative media tools. Imagine 4, VO3, and Flow. So both of these articles cover that. I'll pop open the first article real quick just to show off some of it. Basically, the first thing is VO3. Now, you probably have seen this because over the last week, this has taken the internet by storm. But basically, VO3 is the newest version of VO, and that is Google's video generation tool. VO3 is a lot more realistic than 2, but the big difference, the thing that has got everybody's attention, is now it includes audio. So it's no longer just text to video, and then you would have to go in later and add your own audio. It puts the audio in the video. And so just go online, go to Reddit, go wherever. You're going to see dozens and dozens and dozens of these. People are posting them all over, and it is really quite impressive. Well, I created one earlier. And I was actually doing it for a keynote that I'm doing soon. So I'm going to pull it on over here. If you guys have ever seen my Bionic Educator keynote, one of the questions I do in that is, will technology ever replace a teacher? Who or what is the best teacher in the world? And that's kind of the crux of the keynote. So I basically went to VO 3 and asked it to make a video. And I simply said, I wanted a man walking down a well-lit but empty hallway in a school building. I want lockers on both sides, and I want him to say those words. So hopefully the audio will come through for you, but here is what it generated.
Will technology ever replace a teacher? Who or what is the best teacher in the world?
And there you go. Simple as that. Very quick. But the point is, they're 8-second long videos, but then you can, on your own, you could do multiples, and then you could just use a video editing tool to put them together, which is what people are doing. People are creating entire, they're making commercials, they're making music videos, they're making short films. So the point is, it'll do music, it'll do sound effects, it'll do accents, it'll do emotions. It's staggering. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, yeah, this is different now. This is a significant change here. And so VO3, it is very limited as to the access to it right now. So be aware that is because I do have the paid version of Gemini that I'm able to access that. I'm hoping over time it comes in some form to the free version, but I do understand that it does cost a lot of resources to generate these videos. So at the moment, it is part of the paid version of that. But really just amazing to think what our students someday will be able to create, what we will be able to create with educational content, dropping down those barriers to be able to just say, hey, I got this idea. I want to make this video that explains this or teaches that. Next up, let's see. Flow, I do not have access to. Flow is a tool that goes along with VO3. And what it does is it makes it easier for you to piece the individual 8-second clips together. So it's like basically a video editing tool that works with VO3. I don't have access to that. Imagine 4 is the most recent image generation model. Imagine 3 was just released, I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago. And now we've got Imagine 4. So again, the point being the images that are getting generated are, incredibly more accurate, realistic, more in line with what you have typed in. They handle text way, way, way better than before. So, and again, that is now Google's flagship image generation tool. So those are some of the new things on media, which again, pretty impressive with that. Next up, kind of a grab bag here. A bunch of updates they threw in one blog post on just workspace updates. Gmail, Meet, Vids, Docs, quite a few here. I'll just hit these real quick. So for example, the idea of having Gemini in Gmail, one of the features they're talking about is what they're calling personalized smart replies. We've had smart replies forever. That's not something new, but the smart replies are not as much in our tone or our voice. The personalized smart replies are going to be able to pull from all of our past emails as well as our Google Drive to be able to make a smart reply that sounds like us and is way more accurate because it has at its disposal all of the information that we have in our Gmail and in our Drive. This one I'm excited about. Inbox cleanup. So that's going to be a nice one. So that's a new feature coming to have the Gemini AI clean up your inbox for you, which sounds fantastic. How about this? Speech translation in Google Meet. Again, I'm not going to play this because I just don't want to get the video taken down because I'm playing somebody else's video, but you guys can watch it yourself. This is really impressive. This is now part of Google Meet, the ability to go in and have a conversation with somebody who speaks a different language. The way it works is you talk in your language and they hear you on their end in their language. They talk in their language and you hear them in your language. So it does real-time translation. So you speak English, they hear Spanish. They speak Spanish, you hear English. So it's not just we had closed captions in a different language. No. It's the person's voice in a different language. So that is rolling out to Google Meet now. Other things, let's see, more Google Vids stuff. Yep. The ability to make a Google vid from a Google slideshow. That's awesome. That's going to be really useful. And the ability to use Google Vids to clear up all the ums and uhs. I could benefit from that because I throw a bunch of those in their new transcript trim feature that they're adding in. Now, this is another Google Vids update that I'm excited about. AI avatars. If you don't feel comfortable being on video, you want to speak, you want to say something, but you don't feel comfortable being on the video, AI avatars helps take care of that. Basically, it's going to be an AI person who is doing the speaking. You can give it the script of what you want it to say, but it's going to be somebody's face. It's going to be an AI generated person, but they'll be speaking and they'll be seen. So it looks more professional, but it's not actually you having to put your face into the vid. And I think that's about it. Oh, nope. A little bit more. In Google Docs, when you're using the Gemini add-on for Google Docs, the ability to do what's called source grounding, where you can say, okay, I want assistance writing this, but I need you to reference this PDF, this document, this resource, because that's what we're pulling from as we're writing the document. So that's pretty slick. So a bunch, there's a bunch there. So, Vids, Meet, Docs, Gmail, just a whole collection there. All right, we're getting close to the end of our updates here. I did see Dan just ask a question. Are all these updates behind the Gemini Workspace add-on? So, Dan, that's a good question. I think it really depends. There are a number of different ways to access Gemini features, some free, some paid. I'm not sure. They were not completely clear on all of these in the blog posts. If you want to go back through and read them a little closer, you might catch something I missed. But for example, take Vids. Yes, this is going to require the Gemini add-on, because if it's AI in Vids, yes, it's not just, oh, I've got Google Education Plus. That gets you to Vids. That doesn't get you to the AI portion of Vids. So yes, to be able to use AI avatars, you're going to need the Gemini upgrade for that. Other things here, though, I'm not sure. I'm not actually positive, which of these things are going to be available to everybody, which ones are only part of that additional add-on cost. So my guess is probably most of these are going to be part of that additional add-on cost, at least to begin. But here's the cool thing. That was the case for a lot of stuff that now is just completely free. Think about this. Google Gemini. I'm using the free version on this one, and I'm using the paid version on my other account. So this is the paid version here. This is the free version here. Things like deep research, that used to be paid. That was a paid feature in there. Other things like the ability to upload files. Let me think what else. There's a bunch of things they've added. I feel bad, I'm drawing a blank. Canvas, the ability to generate audio overviews. There were a whole bunch of things that at first were only part of the paid version, and they have over time put them into the free version. So I'm hopeful that maybe they start out paid, and then in time, many of these things move into at least an option for them shows up in the free version. All right. Couple of last things here. What else do we have? This blog post here talks about some Gemini updates involving Gemini Live and Gemini in Chrome. If you want to pop out to the blog post, you can see all the details. But basically, the first one is just about Gemini Live. That's what I've already talked about before, that you can use Gemini on your phone. You can point your camera at anything. Basically, the update is just, well, hey, and here, this is a perfect example. It is now free. So Gemini Live used to be a paid feature. You had to pay for the paid version of Google Gemini to access it. That is not the case anymore. You can now use on your phone, if you got the Gemini app on an Android or iOS phone, there's now a live button inside of Gemini that you can click on, and you can point your camera at anything, and you can have a conversation with Gemini Live about that. So there's a perfect example of something that used to be paid. This blog post is just saying, hey, guess what? It is now free. Everybody's allowed to use that. So that's cool. And then another one, let's see, what was the other one in this? Oh, yeah, Gemini and Chrome. So this is starting to roll out. And you can see it on mine right up here at the very top. If you look at the very top of my screen, up at the top right, there's a little Chrome icon. A Gemini icon. If I click on that, it pops up a chat box, and now I can talk to Gemini about my web page. I could say something like, summarize this article. And if I could type summarize, that might actually help. There we go. Summarize this article. And now it's going to read the article here, and it's going to generate a summary for me real quick. So this is now starting to roll out. I do have access to this. I don't know how soon it gets out to everybody, but Gemini being baked right into Chrome, I think, is really awesome. That's something that actually Microsoft did a while ago with the Edge browser. They put Copilot in Edge like a year ago. So this is really kind of late. I'm surprised Google took this long to do that, but I'm really glad that they finally have started to roll that out. All right, next up, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. Just want you to be aware that Google Glass is coming back in a new form. So if you remember years and years and years ago, Google Glass was basically a headset that you could wear, and it had augmented reality and stuff built into it. Didn't succeed ultimately, but probably because it was kind of ahead of its time. Well, they're back, and now they've got what they're calling Android XR, and this is the new version of basically what was Google Glass, and it really is a lot nicer. The glasses are much smaller, much simpler. You don't have these weird bulky things hanging off of them, and basically it projects right onto the lens, another layer of information. So whether it's walking directions, whether it's, updates or information or emails, and of course, using AI to help power all of that. Now, there could be a lot of educational benefits that could eventually come from this. You think back to how we used to have Google Expeditions, and that got, sunset. Well, this could open up a whole new era of virtual reality, augmented reality, where we could have educational content that is being overlaid onto a tool like this. So keep an eye out. It's not available. You can't buy it yet, but coming soon. They've got those glasses coming out.
Eric, I think it's interesting to see that they are doing both the augmented reality with the glasses and the virtual reality with the headsets. So, and that they've actually allowed both of those to exist.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, because I am not an expert on this. I just am not. So take this for what it's worth. But I think, like with Apple, they made their Vision Pro. That is a really big headset. Like it's bulky, it's big. Now, it's their first model. They're going to do new versions, and they'll be, much better as it goes on. But that's one way to go. Then you've got Meta, and they've gone with like their Ray-Ban glasses that are, very light, very simple. And you're right. Those are two extreme ends of the spectrum. I don't think you easily can combine those two yet. I think you kind of have to decide, which way are you going to go? And so, yeah, Google still has their headset, approach, and they've got their eyeglass approach. And the eyeglass approach is much more augmented reality, giving you content on top of the world that you're looking at. Who knows? Maybe someday there'll be something that kind of marries both of those together in a form factor that is reasonable. But right now, you kind of need to pick which lane you're going to be in for that.
And I'm really interested in the augmented reality. There's also been, if you spend any time on Facebook or any other tools, they're offering glasses now that will give you subtitles of whatever you're listening to.
Absolutely, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think for somebody, I have a little bit of difficulty sometimes in picking up what people are saying. Notwithstanding that I have an accent and they have difficulty understanding what I'm saying.
Sure.
It is a really interesting. Well, it's a hack. I think that a lot of people, especially some of the, the Gen Xers, will turn subtitles on when they're watching TV because it just helps with the experience. You get used to seeing that there, and you don't have to wonder what did they say.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
read it. So I think having that available in the classroom, and
Oh,
then when
yeah.
you think about the live translation
Yes.
stuff that we've just been talking about, if that would be happening to students, then that's a game changer for our ESL students.
Oh, I totally agree. And John, I'm one of the people who always has closed captions on constantly. So
Me
if I'm
too.
watching a movie, if I'm watching a TV show, if I'm watching YouTube, I always have closed captions on, and I don't have any hearing loss. But I just pick up so much more information by being able to read it as well as hear it. So I've been doing that probably for the last 30 years. I mean, that's just always something that I do. I started doing it when my daughter was a baby, because when I would get her to go to sleep at night, I didn't want to wake her up, you finally get the baby asleep, but I wanted to watch a show. So I would turn on closed captioning. And I just started realizing, hey, this is really nice. And she's like 33 now. So yeah, for over 30 years, I've been using closed captioning as just a part of my daily life. But yeah, think about that, having these glasses and what could be projected onto those, whether it is, live translations, whether it's, captions, the mind kind of reels thinking, well, what could we do with it? If this could be done right, what could we do? And again, yeah, they do have their big headset, but they've also got their simple glasses here. So the headset is more of the, immersive virtual reality, where the glasses are more of the augmented reality.
I
Where
dug into XR a little bit when I was preparing for the McCall conference, and I wanted to kind of give the people an indication of what was coming. And I think one of the points they made in the video, I think you're actually seeing it right now on the screen, but they can dig into things like Street View and
yes,
Google Maps and a lot of those technologies that they've really developed up in the last few years, which really didn't exist when we had Google Glass
right,
last time. And
right,
Google Glass has actually evolved into a tool that's used like in the John Deere factory in where they make tractors. The engineers wear Google Glass and actually can bring up blueprints. So
right.
they're still getting used, but I see this is going to really bring it to the masses. And I'm excited about augmented reality now as a technology that can be really a strong assistive technology in the classroom.
Right. Yeah. And that's what this one is actually showing. The guy is saying, he's telling Gemini to start up the translate. It's identifying a Spanish speaker, and it's translating everything she says into English live. So really excited to see where all that's going to go over the next few years. All right. Well, the last couple of things. This is it. I'm not going to run through these few here, just these last two that I did a extra little bullet point. Google Beam. This is now what used to be, oh shoot, was it Starlight? What was the name of it before? Yeah, Starline. Sorry, Starline. This used to be Project Starline. It now has an official name, Google Beam. What this is a 3D video communication platform. It used to be something that took a whole lot of, it was a really big kind of bulky thing. Now they've got it down to a much more simple thing where it's a TV screen, a very normal TV, but there are 6 cameras that are mounted around it, and they're actually in the bezel, so you don't see them, but there's like 6 cameras in the actual bezel around the screen, and it tracks your eyes and it changes what's shown on the screen so that when you're looking at it, it appears to be incredibly 3D and lifelike. Now, obviously, you're not going to get that impression just by looking at, this picture here on the screen. You'd have to do it in person. But again, just bringing a much more human connection to a video conference. So that they're hoping to, now start rolling out in production units that people can buy. And then the last thing, just a quick update on SynthID. I've mentioned SynthID a bunch of times in the past. That is what Google does to put shall we say, a digital watermark on anything AI that they generate. That when Google creates an image, it embeds into the image little bits and pieces that we're not going to pick up, but a computer could pick up, that lets it know this was generated, AI generated. Same thing when Google makes videos with VO, or if they make music, or basically anything that is getting generated with Gemini products. SynthID has been putting digital watermarks in there. Well, the update is they're now starting to roll out the SynthID Detector. So the other end of this, basically a portal where you can take things, upload them, and see, do they have the SynthID watermark in them, to see like, oh, was this AI generated? And so the idea is you could upload something and it'd be like, we detected areas that have, AI in them versus not, or things we're not sure about or whatever. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where this goes, because we know as educators, that's a constant question. How do I know, is this real? The content my students have created, do I know, did they make this image? Did they make this video? Did they write this text? But also for our students, hey, don't believe everything on the internet. How can a student know, is this real? And so this is definitely a step forward in the right direction, to have tools that make it easier to verifiably detect if Google AI was used. Now, obviously, this isn't going to work for things that aren't Google AI, so what if ChatGPT made it? What if something else made it? Yeah, I get it. I understand. But still, I'm glad they're doing it. At least Google is maybe putting some pressure on the other companies to be like, hey, guys, you got to do this. You got to watermark your stuff. You got to have a way that we can tell what is and what is not AI generated. That's going to be more and more and more important, as people will unfortunately misuse some of these tools to create something that looks real but isn't, and is spreading false information or something like that. So that's it, guys. that's the what's new in Google. We are going to move on to show and tell and Q&A, but let's pause there for a second. So Sarah, John, I don't know, what are your thoughts? And people who are with us here today, I would love to know, what gets you excited out of all the stuff that Google dumped there from Google I/O? That's a lot. And I didn't cover everything. There's a lot more they covered, but those I thought were some of the most important things. What are you excited about? Which of these updates, are you most looking forward to, or you want to learn more about? Please feel free to share. I don't ever want to put pressure on anybody. You don't have to, but folks, if you want to drop something in the chat, I'd love to know which of these updates are you most interested in before we do move on to show and tell and Q&A. John, Sarah, anything you guys would like to add before we move on?
I was talking about the well, I'm excited about the augmented reality, as I said, but and I was looking for the voice to text features in the Gemini app, and I thought that they kind of talked about that a little bit. So how you can have a conversation with ChatGPT and you ask it something and then it gives you an answer, and it's
correct.
It's what I like about that is it's something you can use in the car.
Yes, exactly.
You ask Siri in the car, it'll say, sorry, I can't tell you that, you're driving. And
right. Yeah.
ChatGPT will just, will then give you some answers to I wonder about such and such. And I was
Yes.
hoping to see that in Gemini.
That is what that update was right there.
Oh, gotcha.
That is Gemini Live. Gemini Live is, you can talk to it, you can use your camera, you can use screenshots. Yes, that is the live conversation.
But it's
And
not in the current app yet.
no, it is now. That is what they're saying. It is now free for iOS and Android.
Gotcha.
So
but is that
you might
app
have
available yet?
well, I've used it, so you might have to update the app. I'm
Gotcha.
not sure, but if you're using the Gemini app, yes, Gemini Live is now for free in the Android and iOS app. So yeah, you can just have a conversation with it. Alternately, you can also use your camera, things like that, if you want to point it at things and say, hey, what am I looking at? Or you can just talk to it. So yes, yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's look at show and tell and Q&A, and then we can swing back around. If people have anything they want to add to what they thought about Google I/O, please feel free to do so. I do see David did have one comment. He said there's rumors that Apple may be switching to Gemini for their AI, for their powering and stuff. I have not heard that rumor, David, but I certainly understand that could happen. I mean, at this point, AI development is an incredibly expensive venture that takes, a lot of time to develop a really powerful AI model. And Apple might just say, listen, what's the point in developing our own AI model? Maybe we're better off, partnering with, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, something like that. So haven't really heard anything about that, but at the same time, I certainly could understand why a company would decide to do that rather than build their own AI from scratch. All right, well, let's jump over to show and tell. So basically, this is where we're going to share anything else cool we've come across in the last month. I've got a handful of things here, but we also have a community section. So if you guys have something cool to share, this is the place to do it. Just come on in here and drop in a bullet point and add anything you'd like to share. But since I have Sarah and John with me today, I'm going to let you guys start. That'll give me a moment to rest my vocal cords before I share mine. John, I did see you had a few things here. What would you like to chat about there?
Yeah, so I discovered completely, quite by accident this week that, well, actually, it was last week. I keep forgetting it's like the day after Memorial Day here in the US. So it was last week. It seems like it was yesterday. I was working on like editing and I like the new tabs and
Sure.
The way that we've got that arranged now. But of course, if you don't change the name of it, it just says tab 1, tab 2. And the hack is very similar to if you haven't renamed your Google Doc yet and it's still called Untitled, if the very first thing that you type in the document, if you say you type in what the name of the document is, when you click on the title of the document, it automatically then makes that be the title of the document.
Right. So like if we go to docs and I just say something like sample doc, anything, now you're right. Obviously, if I click up here for Untitled, it becomes sample doc, right?
So if you make if you have a tab there, if you click on that tab and then go to the 3 dots and go rename,
and you go to rename, it grabs that as well.
Yes. So if you've set your document up already and so it's all about thinking about when you make a document that it is important to give it a title straight away, and then you can use that for the name of the document. Now, if this is going to be multiple tabs, then obviously you would make another tab.
Right. And then, you could always add more tabs. So like same thing here, I could add another tab.
And then as long as you've typed in the new name of it there.
So like section 2. So if I do that, and then I come over here and say rename, it's going to grab whatever that was. Correct. So it just saves me time of not having to manually rename it if I think ahead and put a good title at the top. That's
and great. Oftentimes you'll just make a bunch of tabs and then they'll all be there, tab, tab, tab. But if you come back then, as long as the very first thing in that tab is what you want to call it, then it makes it really easy.
That's great.
So that's my first hack.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the second one, you were talking about the strategy for using AI, and I like so in my bookmarks bar, and I know you have your bookmarks bar. Actually, you got it hidden right now in your
I
browser.
do.
But
I can open it back up real
But
quick.
I make a folder, and I basically put all of the AI tools that I want to use. So if you click on like your Adobe one there, it's probably got a bunch of sublinks there.
Sure.
And so I just make an AI folder, and I've got ChatGPT in there.
Oh yeah.
So all the different tools that I like to use.
Yes.
And then
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter if you're doing a technique and you think, oh boy, this isn't working the way I want to, then you just quickly just jump to another tool. And rather than have to have all of those tabs open, you can just use that menu just to find that there. So that's just a little hack about organizing.
Tell you what, yeah, if folks aren't sure how to do that, it's been years ago, but I did a video series. There we go. Back in 22, I did a video series on Chrome features. So if that's something you aren't familiar with how to do what John just said there, let me find the launching page for it. Yeah. So this was the 12 days of Chromeness back in 22. And I covered a lot of different things. And one of them was bookmark folders in Google Chrome. And so that particular one, I'll do this. I'll copy the link and I'll put this in here for you guys. Let's add this as just a sample here under John's if you need to see that. But that article basically, there's a little video, 5-minute video with it as well, but it goes through the whole idea of, creating a folder, a Jamboard folder, and tells you how old this was. Yeah, I might not be using that folder too much anymore. But how instead of having all these things just loose and spread, how you can take them and drag and drop them or add them into a folder. And then anytime you need, you can just, click on that folder to get to those resources, or you can click on the folder and open up everything from it at once. Now, I do that for like my training sessions. Every training session I have is in a subfolder, and I can just open all 8 documents or 8 files I need for a training session all at once by just right-clicking on the folder and saying open them all up at once. So yeah, if you're wanting to do that, oh, absolutely. I could not survive without folders because you just have too many bookmarks. They make things so much easier to keep them all nicely organized. So thanks for sharing that, John. That is fantastic. Although I typically don't keep my bookmarks bar displayed unless I'm on a blank new tab. Otherwise, I typically don't. But you can easily turn that on and off. All right. Well, Sarah, anything you'd like to share? I know I always give a shout out to your weekly newsletter. Anything you would like to share here?
To be honest, Eric, I want to give you a shout out because everything that you just went through and making it like reachable for the rest of us is just amazing. It always blows me away how you can speak so eloquently, but so knowledgeable about all of these things that Google's doing, because I certainly am not able to keep up with it anywhere close to as well as you do. So
well, hey, I'm glad that was helpful. I'm sure it could have been better, but I'm glad what it was helpful. So that's good. Awesome. Well, let's see what our community had to share here. So we were poking around on these ahead of time before we started. So I am familiar with the first one. My colleague, Matt Mays, love Matt. One of the greatest guys in the world out there. He shared some Google Slides resources here. And I absolutely loved this first one because I felt silly. I don't think I ever thought about doing this. That's what I love. I love when somebody comes up with a clever, interesting way. So Matt is sharing about using slides for a randomization activity. So this is not something new, and we've done those kind of things before, like spin a wheel and pick something from the wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's 10 different, options, spin the wheel and have it pick something. Well, what about using Google Slides for that purpose. So, for example, here we have the Harry Potter Hogwarts sorting hat. So basically what he's got here is he has a slideshow where each slide in the deck is, a house, from Harry Potter. And so all of those are there. But then what he's done is he's gone in and he has published it to the web so that it can play automatically. And he's adjusted the speed at which the actual slides progress. So if I click on the published link, it is that same slideshow, but it's moving very quickly through the slides. This is something that I've shared a lot of times when I do stop motion animation. So I've got a session I do that's all about creating stop motion animation and how you can take a slideshow, you can publish it to the web, and then after you publish it to the web, you can adjust the speed so it goes quicker. Well, I knew all that. What I didn't know is I can't believe I didn't know this. If you click or hit the P key while one of these is going on, it pauses it. I didn't realize that. I'm like, how did I not know that? So while this is going through, if I just press P, boom, that's it. It stops automatically. If I refresh it, it'll start up again. The other option is just clicking on a slide while it's going, also stops it automatically. So the idea is you could take, well, we'll take this Hogwarts one that he's got here. I'll make a copy, obviously, because I'm not going to, can't change his, but I'll just make a copy of it. So let's say I've got a copy of this. So here's a copy of that slideshow. What I would do is, again, I would publish it to the web, which means I go File, I go Share, and I go Publish to the web. And I tell it a few key things. I say I want it to start immediately, and I want it to restart after the last slide. That way it plays right away and it loops. I'm going to hit Publish. And when I do that, it's going to give me this link. I'm going to copy this link. And the problem with it, it's great. The problem is it's going to be too slow. It's going to be advancing every 3 seconds. Now you can make it shorter. You can say every second, but even that is too slow. But here's the hack. Notice in the link, the very tail end of the link, it says delay MS equals 3,000 for 3 seconds, or delay MS equals 2,000 for 2 seconds, or delay MS equals 1,000 for 1 second. Well, I can take that link, I can copy it, and then I could modify that. I could come in here and say, you know what, let's take that link and let's make it so that it's going to move not every 1 second, but I mean, I could have it blisteringly fast. I could say, a hundredth of a second, like we're not even gonna be able to see this. It's just going to go so fast. And now if I click that, this thing is going to be just racing. And so it is just going sorry if you are photosensitive, I apologize, but it is moving every hundredth of a second because I did 10 milliseconds. But now all we do is say, okay, let's press P now, and it stops. And there we go. And so now it is going to, pause on that. I love this. That is so cool. I've done that kind of idea for stop motion animation for years. I never even thought to make a random choosing thing from it. That's so cool. That is such a great idea. So that's fantastic. So that was really cool. Loved that. I'm going to absolutely have to incorporate that into my Google Slides training in the future as another twist on this. So fun, so fun. Love that. And then the other one that Matt shared was about getting comfortable with the gray space. Now, I love that phrase, basically the idea that, when you have a slideshow, this area outside of the slideshow, it's all fair game. I mean, nobody's going to see it when you run the slideshow, but you're allowed to put stuff, like if I grab this hat, you can put stuff outside. You're allowed to use the area outside of the slide. And for a lot of different activities, that may be perfect. You may want to put things over there to then have the students drag and drop items from the gray space onto the slide. Well, the one that Matt shared here was a real world example where you could say, hey, we're doing Chipotle for lunch today, and we want everybody to create their order. So you could make a copy of this. Here, I'll make a copy of his presentation. And you could share this with people and give them, oh, well, I made it mad. Somehow I made it mad there. Sorry about that. Let's try that one more time. Make a copy. All right. Oh, wrong place. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to drop it into my drive. There we go. That was my problem. I was trying to drop it into a place that I didn't have access to. There we go. And so now if I go to slide 2, I get this blank, slide. But then over here, I've got bowl, I've got burrito wrap, I've got all my ingredients. And so I could say, oh, I want a bowl. I could grab the bowl and I could drag the bowl over and I could, sorry about that. I could put the bowl right onto the slide. Perfect. And then I could come over and say, okay, yeah, what do I want? Well, I definitely want, my corn salsa. I want sour cream. I want, all, you get the idea. I mean, I could grab all the stuff that I want, I'm a black bean guy. So let's put the black beans up there. And so I can build my own, order here and then add anything extra, extras and sides over there. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So I just love that as a very practical example of taking advantage of that gray space that's out there. As a lot of people do clever things with that, what was it? Jamboard. We just mentioned Jamboard a moment ago. When I did my Google Slides version of Jamboard, that's what I did. So if you go here, let's pull it up. I think I called it like Jam Slides or something like that. No. Slide Jams. Maybe I did Slide Jam. I don't remember what I called it. I might have called it Slide Jam. What did I call it? No, I didn't call it that either. Okay, let's just type in Jamboard. Jamboard. What did I call it? I called it Jam Slides. Oh, I had a space in there. Okay, Jam Slides with a space. So basically, I made a Google Slides template that you can make a copy of that. I was basically trying to make Google Slides mimic Jamboard as much as possible. And so what I ended up doing was using the gray space outside of the slide. So for example, here's the sticky notes. If you want one, click on a sticky note, press Control D to duplicate. Now you've got your sticky notes and now you can type on them, or whatever. So I put things in the outside, directions and things that you can copy and use and drag onto there. So love it. Matt, thanks so much for sharing that. I do see you've added a couple things to the chat. So Matt said, utilize the student face deck, allow each student to edit their own slide in the first week, and then you can have a custom student selector where the kids can see themselves all year long. I love that. That's fantastic. So I do have somewhere here. I don't know if I can find it fast enough, but I have, yep, there it is. So here is a template that I did a while back where you can have students add themselves to this slideshow where they put in a picture of themselves and then they put in key details about themselves. And then you can use this to randomize and like quiz yourself. My whole point was using it to learn who your students were, so they can fill it out and then, you can see their picture and then you can click the button and it'll bring up their name. You can be like, oh, okay. Yeah. And so you can practice learning your students' names. But yeah, you could do something like that where the students fill it in and then all year long, you could just use that slideshow and just have it progressing really fast, hit the P button and randomly choose a student. So if anybody wants that template, I'll drop that in just as a bonus here. We'll just put that under here as a bonus just so you guys have it. That's the template for the student faces. But that's awesome. Let's see what else. Matt, you also said the food order activity works best when you use the magnifying glass to shrink the size of the window. Good point. Yes, I was struggling a little bit with that one on the size I was on. Let me find it again. But right, if we come here and we zoom out, absolutely, you are totally correct. that is. Because I gotta unzoom. There we go. That makes so much more sense to be like, yeah, that's what I want. Makes a lot more sense to zoom out so you can see everything there, and then zoom back in when you're all done. Well, Matt, you've made my day. I love it. Those are such excellent ideas. I love, 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 love when we take a tool we all use day in and day out, like Google Slides, and put a twist on it. And these are really awesome twists. So thanks for sharing those. Summit ESC is hiring. Hey, that's great to know. So just heads up, there's a job posting for a technology integration AI consultant for Summit ESC. Very good. That is awesome to see. So whoever shared that, thank you very much for putting that out there. And then somebody said they found a cool browser extension that defines anything you highlight. Really nice for idioms and phrases. Oh, cool. I'm always looking for new ones. Obviously, this is blocked just because we have to approve any extension. So I haven't seen this one before, but I will add it to my list to review. And if it looks like it's a good match, then we can add it to our approved ones. But yeah, so basically it's a one-click lookup. You can just basically select any word, and then it's going to give you a definition and an explanation. See, I like that because I've shown Google Dictionary for a long time, but this looks like it's a lot more detailed because, yeah, Google Dictionary is great, but I don't know that it's going to catch all of the context here, like no cap. Exactly. Sure. So like, is it gonna realize, the slang that means, because this is based, on, I guess, AI. It's pulling from a lot more context there, and it's able to really understand what's going on. Thanks for sharing this. I'm definitely going to try this one. I'm going to take it for a spin and see what I think about that. Always looking for new ones. So that's great. All right. Well, I'm going to hit my show and tell real quick. And then Q&A is all we have left. So if you still have some questions, now's the time to be dropping them into Q&A. Let me go ahead and touch on my show and tell real quick. All right. So as you can see, I don't have much this month. It was so busy. There were so many trainings, so much was going on. I apologize. I did not create a lot of content this month. So I only have four things I'm going to mention. I'll first of all mention, please keep checking out my EdTech links of the week. I do try most weeks to get a list of my latest EdTech findings. And so I probably need to update this. I think I'm missing one of my recent weeks here, but these are the cool things I find each week. You can get those on that page, but you can also just sign up for the newsletter. That's how I send them out as well. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get my EdTech links every week where I share cool things I've come across every week. Well, one of the things, though, that I have shared recently is a blog post I did on using AI to assist with alt text for accessibility. So a lot of times when I post things on social media, I want to be sensitive to the fact that the image that I'm adding in my social media post may not be something that everybody is able to see. There's a what's the stat here? 285 million people worldwide have some vision impairment. And so one way to help with that is by using alt text. And basically the idea is when you make a social media post somewhere, like I think if I go down far enough, you'll see an example here. Like here's Blue Sky. When I'm making a post on Blue Sky, there's this little icon that says plus alt. So you can see this little plus alt. That's to add alt text. And so you can add a description of what the image is. And that's the idea. Alt text, it's just a description. It's some text that if somebody has a screen reader, the screen reader can grab it and say, this is what the picture is of. Well, that's a good practice to get into. We should add alt text when we're posting things online. Well, the problem is, what if you don't feel competent, comfortable, confident being able to create good alt text? So what I did was I made an AI prompt that could help with this. So this is the prompt. You're absolutely welcome to copy and use this, modify it, do anything you want with it. But what I did was I went out and read a whole bunch of these best practice guidelines that were out there, and I used that to help build this. So basically the AI prompt just simply says this: hey, your job is to come up with alt text. I'm going to give you an image and I'm going to tell you the text that I'm going to put in the post along with it. But what I want you to do is give me 3 versions of an alt text that would go nicely with this. And don't forget, Section 508 has these guidelines. These are the key things that should be guiding you in the creation of the alt text. And that's it. That's the post. And so, like, here's a picture from back when I was doing the Raising Student Achievement Conference. If I upload the picture and I say, here's the post, this is what I'm going to put in that post, what would be a good alt text? So here's like ChatGPT and Gemini giving me some suggested alt text. Here's another one that's more of a graphic for my Choose Your Own Adventure post. Here's the image. Here's the post. What would be good to go along with it? Now, I've gone further and I've actually saved these as gems in Google Gemini. You can come here and you can go to gems. Gems is another new-ish feature where you can create a gem and you can say, okay, I don't want to have to type in the same prompt again and again and again. You can give it a name and you can put in the prompt here. And then in the future, you can just come back to that gem and it'll have everything ready to go. So I didn't do it on this account, but I did this on my personal account. So I have a gem now that basically says alt text generator. I put in that prompt, and anytime I need it now, I just go to that gem and I can click on that gem, drop in the image, drop in my my post, and it generates some alt text options. And that's it. At that point, when I go to post things, I click the plus alt, I paste in whatever was my chosen alt text. And hopefully that's going to make it a lot easier for folks who are going to benefit from that. So that was my only real post. That's it. That's the only new big posts I made this last month. These other things are just like, the OAESA conference and the Think Forum. I did do 2 updates though. So I did not make these into posts. These are not posts, but I did do a big update to my Gemini session because Google has made so many updates to Gemini recently. I realized that my Gemini session was way out of date. So just be aware, it is up to date now. Here's the resource doc. You can view the slideshow. You can copy the slideshow. It's also all here at this bit.ly link. But basically, this is when I do a training on Gemini, this is now the document that I use. You're obviously welcome to make a copy of this, but it covers, everything new in Gemini. And like I said, this is also the slideshow that goes along with it as well. And once again, I release everything under Creative Commons, so you're welcome to make a copy of this. But it covers, an overview of what Gemini is. It talks all about the privacy and security features of it, basic chatting, example uses, exporting things, the fact check feature, dealing with images inside of Gemini, the deep research feature, the Canvas feature, using gems, using the Gemini apps, audio overviews, on and on and on. So it's up to date as of today, but it'll be out of date, I'm sure, soon. But I'll keep it up to date better. It just had gotten so far out of date. So that one is up to date. And another thing I've been working on updating is my list of AI policies. Schools need good examples of policies. I had a blog post in the past that listed a bunch, but it was, again, woefully out of date. I have updated that blog post. It's the same post, but it is now updated. If you go to this one back from last year, a year ago, when I originally posted this, it is now updated. It now has 4 sections in it. Basically, I have general guidelines that are just more like frameworks, things like Teach AI. Then I have guidance per state. So like here's Ohio's toolkit, but there's like 26 states that have AI guidance. I have university guidance, and then I have guidelines from specific school districts, including quite a few from around Ohio as well. So I'm going to continue to keep this up to date, but it had gotten very out of date. This, as of right now, is much more up to date with really good sample policies and guidelines that schools can pull from, but I will do better at keeping that one up to date. All right, that's it for show and tell, which brings us to our last section, Q&A. And it looks like we only have one Q today. Our question was, does anyone have a good way to translate a Google form quiz into another language? Let's see. One of the responses is that if we use the 3 dots in the upper right-hand side and choose translate from the menu options, that's interesting. I think that would change. It would change what shows up on the screen. I'm wondering if what you're saying is you want a new copy of the form. I don't know. I guess that's a good question. Yeah. So
I tested it out, Eric.
Yep.
And what I noticed was, so you're using the 3 dots menu in Chrome to use the translation of the whole web page
right.
the form is on. And I translated my form into a different language, and it translated the questions, but it didn't translate the answers. And I don't know if that was just on the particular one that I had, but that was what I noticed.
I think that would be accurate. So, for example, let me see if I can quickly enough find one here. I'm just going to pull up a form really fast here. Let me find one. I know you can't see I'm typing on another page over here because I'm trying to find an example form that I have used in a training before that would be maybe fine for this. Let me see if I can find it here. Scroll. Here we go. Let's see. Is this the one I wanted to try? Well, that's not very exciting. This one is just for text to speech, but there's enough there. So yeah. So it's a form. So yeah, if I were to come here and say that I wanted to, translate this, I can come up here and I can say, I want to put this into a different language. I could say, let's translate this, into, Spanish, for example. So let's go down and pick Spanish out of my list here. Here we go. And I hit translate. It will translate that page. And that's just a Chrome thing. Chrome, that's just built into Chrome. You can do that on any web page. All I did is I just hit right click and I said translate. I just chose translate. I know you can also do the 3 dots to get there and hit translate. A lot of times I just do a right click, but it's the same thing. Nevertheless, the point is, yeah, you can translate any web page, but what you're typing in here, here is my answer. That's not going to get translated because that's not part of the page. That's a text box. So that's not going to get translated there. So if it's just a matter of, hey, I'm taking a quiz, but I need to view the quiz in my own language. Yeah, as long as you're in Chrome, you should have no problem going into the translate feature and picking, a different language. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to English just so that I don't forget, because I'll forget. And then later on it will be, there we go, back to English. I guess the question is that what the person is asking? Or are they wanting to say, no, I want to take a form that I have edit rights to, and I want to make a new copy of the form where that form is entirely in a different language there. I did see the suggestion about using the Brisk teaching extension and then picking a different language. So yes, when you're using Brisk, you can have it generate a quiz for you and you can pick the language you want it in. But I think what we're coming down to is if it's, like again, if I said I had a form, so we'll just say, let's say we get form.new, let's say we have a form. If I have this form, and this form, we'll just say it's, a math quiz. If I wanted to say I want to make a new copy of this in a new language, so let's just say our question is something like, how do you find the area of a triangle, and it's like, maybe a paragraph response or something. And I say, I want a Spanish copy of this. I don't think we have a built-in option like we do in something like, in Google Docs. I can just say tools and I can say translate the entire document. I don't believe we have a translate option to just say make a new copy of this in another language. My question is there an add-on for this? Does there exist, like if I come here and I go to my get add-ons, is there an add-on that works inside of Forms? And I honestly don't know. I mean, we'd have to look at, oh, there we go, Forms Translator. So there's one. Now, does it work? I don't know. I guess we'd have to check and see. And is it free? Is it paid? This one claims to be quickly. So it says, yeah, take a form and make a new copy of the form that's in another language. So that would be my first thought, would be to check on an add-on, because that is not a feature that I believe is built into Google Forms on its own. So an add-on is that's the perfect kind of thing you want. You know, you want to be able to just have that feature, and an add-on would be probably the best way to get it. Now, I'm not saying this is the add-on to use. I would have to investigate it and see, does it, is it appropriate, and does it do all the things it's supposed to do? It says it's free of charge. That's encouraging. You know what? I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna have to check this one out. Let's just do this. Let me drop the link into the Q&A, and you guys, we can all do our due diligence later. But whoops, sorry about that. Let's I cannot type here today. There we go. So let's say, if you want to check out Forms Translator, don't install it blindly. Take some time and check and see if it really does do what it says it does, and if it really is free to use. There's a pricing button up here, but I don't know. Can we use it for free without having to pay anything? I don't know. So I'd be curious to see. Well, anyway, that's one that we could take a look at. All right, John, I thought I heard you start to say something. I may have interrupted.
No, you handled it perfectly.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for the question. That's a good one. If it was a Google slideshow you wanted to translate, there definitely are good translation tools for that. I do a session all about that. That one is ESL Tech, I think. Is this the one? Yeah. So I have a session called Tech Tools for ESL, ELL. If I find that form one works well, I'll add it to this list. But in here I have, for example, 2 really good add-ons, totally free add-ons for translating slides. It makes a whole copy of your slideshow into a new language. So I know for slides, absolutely, we've got those out there already, but I don't know about forms. So if this does pan out, I'll be sure to add that to my ESL document there. All right. Good stuff.
Eric, I think the only comment I would make is it comes down to, I want to say, digital literacy, and it is in the user experience. If they know that they can translate with their browser into a different language, then that's really going to be helpful to them. But in a lot of cases, people don't know what functions are available in their browsers. So part of this whole strategy with helping people that don't have English as their first language that are in our schools, and the parents, is by helping to kind of produce materials maybe that help them, or have classes to help them to learn how to use the tools so that they can translate things, make their transition a little easier.
And now I'm trying to remember if I had a blog post on that or not. Remember when we did the Chrome Miss one? I don't remember if I had to translate one. You're right on the money there, John. It is about making sure that the users understand what they're sitting on top of, the tools they have. Did I have a translate one or not? I don't know if doesn't look like I did. Yeah, looks like I had not included that in there. I was going to put in a link if I had one, but I couldn't remember if I did or not. But you're right. It really is just that. It's just doing a right click, on it and saying, translate, or using the 3 dots button and going to translate. You can do that for any web page you're on. Well, folks, we are at the end of our time. So as we start to pull back together, we'll pop back up on the screen here. Hi, everybody. I'm going to do a quick little wrap up, but Sarah and John, if there's anything that you want to add now's the time to be thinking of that. While you're thinking of that, I'm going to say a couple of quick things as we wrap up. First of all, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Next, if you didn't sign in, don't forget, go to the Important Links tab and use the link here for the sign-in form. That just allows me to send you a certificate of attendance and allows us to submit the number of attendees to Google so they know that, how many people attended our meeting. So that's great. I would encourage you to join the group if you haven't so that you can stay in touch in the meantime. I encourage you to check out any of these upcoming events that we mentioned. And then I would say, as far as our next meeting, I don't have one scheduled because it's a little far out. So that's why being in the group would be really helpful. If you join the group, you'll get notified of the next meeting. But of course, I'll share it like I always do on social media and stuff like that. But probably the end of August is probably when our next meeting will be. That's typically what we've been doing to kick off the new school year. But I don't know. We might rethink things over the summer and decide, we're going to change things around a little bit. If it's working, we don't want to break anything that is working. But the point is, at the moment, I do not have the actual date when our next event will be, but probably late August. So with that said, I definitely want to wish everybody an amazing summer. I hope you have a great, break, get some rest, get recharged. I'm going to be super busy. This is the time of year I get more busy because of all the conferences in the summer. So I can't wait till September when things slow down. That's more like it. But John, Sarah, anything you guys want to share as we start to wrap up?
I just want to wish everybody a happy summer, and then, of course, for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, have a happy winter. And what I'm hoping is that over the summer, everybody gets a chance to kind of recharge, because with this world of AI, nothing's going to slow down. Everything is speeding up. So there are some tremendous tools, and hopefully you'll get some time to recharge and then get back at it in the fall, and we'll be there ready with a summary of all of the things that Google has changed over the summer. Some ideas and tips for you. So have a great summer.
And they definitely will, because ISTE will be in the summer, and they hold a bunch of things till ISTE, and they'll drop a bunch of updates at ISTE. So there will be new things. All right. Well, thank you again, Sarah and John, so much for helping out and being a part of this today. And thanks to everybody who joined us. Have a wonderful, wonderful break. See you guys at the end of the summer. Take care.